the Maker's Box is 1 year old. Yes, we are celebrating the 1 year birthday of the Maker's Box. With that celebration, I did redesign the exterior of the box. People were hearing, what, you're redesigning the box? You're changing things up? No, I'm just redesigned it. So I went to Royce's retreat and I created my very own masterboard there. And I thought it was the perfect opportunity to use the masterboard to redesign the exterior of the box. But then when I decided to do that, I thought, oh, this would be a perfect opportunity. It's a year old and I have been listening to you guys, and many of you have been saying like, I love the box, but I don't always use the papers, or I don't use the paint, and I would like to just get the paint, or I would like to just get the papers. And so I created that for you. So I created the paint lovers, so you can get just the paint from the Maker's Box. And then I also created the paper lovers, you guys. The only downfall for those two are that's all you get. So with the Maker's Box, many of you know that you get little perks, and some of those perks would be you are able to order extra papers. With those two subscriptions, you would not be able to do that. I also added another thing to the Maker's Box. I love having Royce featured, I love having Connie featured, but I have been wanting to add something that I create myself as well. And so starting in June, I created the Maker's Box digital press. And what that is every month I am creating 5 digital prints for you. They are part of the Maker's Box, so you're getting more for your money. So you're getting the 2 Roycycle decoupage papers, the 2 Connie painted photographer rice papers, and then you're getting my 5 digital prints. There are limitations, so you can't print them off and resell or anything like that. They're for your own personal use, or if you are a maker, you can make items to sell with those. But definitely read the fine print, you know, the terms and conditions of that. So those are automatically in the Maker's Box, but I also have a subscription for that. So if you just want to get my 5 digital prints every month, you're definitely able to do that. So those are the changes with the Maker's Box. Actually, really not a lot of change, more like adding. And then with that said, I've also kicked off the Makers Creative Community. And you do not have to be part of the Maker's Box or any of the subscriptions to be part of the community. If you are a subscriber of the Maker's Box, you do have a $10 coupon that I've sent to each and every one of you. So you get $10 off of your membership fee. But definitely check that community out, you guys. It is going to be amazing. I welcomed all the founding members, and we are going to do our very first project on June 19th. So you definitely have time to join. I will have replays of all the different projects that we're doing within the community. But if you guys want to be part of this little VIP group of like-minded DIYers, upcyclers, creatives, definitely the link is in the description below. So I wanted to let you guys know about that. But today I am going to show you the June box and all the projects that I've created. And honestly, I could have kept creating. There is so much in the June box. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I can't wait to hear what you guys think. In Project 1, I am using Botanical Ephemera. This is one of the 2 papers that Royce designed for the June Maker's Box. It's absolutely stunning. I also thrifted this banner. There were 2 chunks of the banner, and I found them at the Goodwill Bins. They were in such great shape. They were actually brand new. I tossed them in the cart, not even realizing they were for a wedding. I'm not getting married anytime soon, guys. I'm already married. So I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to upcycle them. For starters, we're going to grab White Swan, and I am going to apply White Swan to each of the pieces so we can apply the decoupage paper on top. as you can see, I'm leaving a little bit of a border. I don't want the paper to completely cover it. I want to show a little bit of that burlap. This also was a bit messy because it is burlap, so the white swans seeped through, so I did have a scrap piece of paper underneath catching any of the paint that actually went through. I did want the paint to really cover it because when I apply the decoupage paper, I want it to be able to actually adhere to something, and I thought with the burlap it may cause a bit of a problem if there wasn't enough paint. Now it's time to cut the paper, and this is where I was kind of questioning how I was going to do that until I laid the paper over each of the pieces and I realized you could see the white perfectly through it. What I decided to do was I took a fine tipped permanent marker and I just drew a line around the entire perimeter. And what I did is I went a little beyond the white because it gave me a little wiggle room. Anytime I apply decoupage to any project, I always leave a little bit extra so I can sand it off, and that's exactly what I wanted to do here. So I saw the white line of the paint, and then I just went above it a little bit, and I did that around the entire perimeter and then cut it out. And it was honestly a perfect match for each one. I had no problems whatsoever. I typically use DIY's liquid patina, but for this job, I decided to use Fusion's decoupage and transfer gel. And this is a bit thicker and it worked absolutely perfect. So what I did is I applied just a nice even coat of this. And again, when I started applying it, I did not realize it was going to seep through a bit. So I did end up adding like a scrap paper underneath to control the mess. And I just applied a nice thicker layer and then I misted the paper and applied it like I would to any other project. And you guys, it worked so amazing and I'm so excited about how this banner turned out. I screeched a little bit when it was totally finished. In project 2, I am using the paper from the painted photographer called Be Kind and then DIY's paint called Blue Iris, and I grabbed an old vintage book that I found at the Goodwill Bins. Each month, Connie creates 2 papers for me, and what she does is she hand draws the image and then she goes in with DIY paint and paints them. So the paint colors that we pick for the maker's box go with each of the designs absolutely perfectly. And I ask her to always do a 3-up, so you have one image that's on a 3-up and then the other one that's on a single. I went to my hymnal and I tore out a hymnal page because I wanted to start layering on this book on the front cover. And then I realized as I was tearing it, I have my own digital papers now, and I can use that. I don't always have to grab my hymnal because I have been creating some really fun papers, and wait till you see this month's. Before I show you my new digital prints, I'm going to paint the book Blue Iris. I'm going to go in and just apply one even coat over the entire book. DIY paint is heavily pigmented, so it really only required one coat, and also it is a clay-based paint, so it sticks to virtually any surface. Remember the hymnal paper? I'm tossing that aside, using that for a different project, and this is what I designed this month. I just thought it was absolutely stunning. I love the vintage look of the paper and then the beautiful font. And I think this bumblebee or be kind paper over the top of it is going to look absolutely gorgeous. So I did print these off on rice paper, and I love using the technique, the water on the paintbrush technique. So I just draw a line of water and then tear towards me. And I think rice paper with that fringy edge is just absolutely stunning. So I did that around the entire perimeter, and then now we're going to apply it to the book. I always want my paper to really pop, so I am using a technique that I learned from Lexi Grenzer. I flip the paper over and I paint the back side of it white. And you can use any type of white paint. I'm using White Swan from DIY, and I am just going to apply an even coat over the entire back side. And while that's drying, we can start with the other piece of paper. So I am going to do the water method as well on Connie's paper. Hers is a rice paper as well. And again, I really like that whimsical look that rice paper has when you wet it and then you rip it. It's so authentic looking. It looks very natural. I don't like the crisp cut lines by using a scissors. Now that I have all the paper prepped, I lay it all out, and I really like how this is looking, you guys. I love how that blue iris blends perfectly with the paper of Be Happy. And so now it's a time to apply the rice paper. I took out liquid patina, which is my go-to decoupage medium, apply a nice even layer of that, lay down my paper, and then I apply Be Happy over the other paper. And you guys, this turned out so cute, and at first I was just gonna leave it, but I wanted to add something to the binding. So I decided to use the new IOD stamp set called Insignia, and I love that IOD is now creating smaller fonts for projects like this. So I decided just to stamp bees on the side of the binding, and I think it was a perfect little added touch. I wanted to age my book just a bit, so I broke out DIY's clear wax and black wax, and I always like to use clear with the colored waxes because you have better control. So I add a bit of clear and then go in with the black, and I like how it just distresses the entire book and really gives it that old vintage aged look. For project 3, I want to show you the digital press. This is part of the maker's box, and then you have the option to also get the 5 digital images through the digital press membership or subscription. And you guys can see this month I decided to incorporate coneflowers, yellow finches, and I wanted it to have a real vintage look to it, along with I wanted to incorporate some crocks. So for this project, I am using just a tag that I had found at the Goodwill Bins. I'm painting it white, and then I'm going to use the image with the coneflowers and the yellow finch. I want to create a large hang tag for a basket that I've had in my booth, and I think by just adding a tag to it, it will just really up-level it. So I am using, again, liquid patina, which is my go-to decoupage medium for both rice papers and the decoupage papers for Roy's. I'm applying just a nice even coat. I'm misting my rice paper and I'm applying it just like I would any other. Now, when you get the digital files from me, you can then print them on whatever type of paper that you have. So you can just print them on regular paper if you want. I am using rice paper. After it dries, I'm using a piece of sandpaper and sanding away the excess to give it a really nice, crisp, clean edge. I want to finish out the back side of the tag. I'm using Fusion Mineral Paint in the color Coal Black, and I'm applying 1 even coat of coal black to the entire back side. Now, a little pro tip about the testers, they have a little seal. I always take that seal and I set it inside the cap, and then it reseals it each time. The last step is I take a bit of clear wax and dark wax, and I just, around the very edge of this tag, add a little bit of distressing, and then I add a bit of twine and add it to the basket, and I love how this tag turned out. For project 4, I'm going to use Sweet Pickins milk paint today. I grabbed all 3 of these pieces from the Goodwill Bins, and they all had really good bones. I wasn't in love entirely with how they looked. So the first step here is I'm adding a layer of shellac, and this really helps with adding a bit of crackle to your milk paint. If you haven't used the milk paint yet, it's super easy, you guys. I always take equal parts warm water to equal parts powder, and I mix them really well, and then I let it sit for roughly 10 minutes to set up. It just thickens it up a bit, and then it's ready to use. After it sets up for 10 minutes, I give it a good stir again, and then I apply 1 even coat to all 3 pieces. And I don't want to put it on too thick because it could run. I just do a nice even coat. And you may not get full coverage on that first coat. That's okay. Let that first coat dry, come back, and then we're gonna add a second layer. Now, when you add the second layer, what I like to do is just add a nice even coat. This is when you get the full coverage, and then I have my heat gun, and then that's when I zap it. And when you hit that heat gun with the milk paint and you want that crackle goodness, you're gonna get it with your heat gun.
The one thing about milk paint that I love so much is the unpredictability of it. You never know exactly where it's going to crackle, where it's going to chip, and if you don't want any of the crackleness or the chippiness, then you want to add extra bond to it and you will get the perfect finish. I did want that crackle goodness, so that is why I added the shellac. I did not add any extra bond because I wanted to have it authentically crackle and chip exactly where it wanted to. After I get done letting it dry, I go in with a piece of sandpaper and I sand all the surfaces. This helps if there's any paint that does want to chip off. It encourages it to chip now before we seal it. So I go in and I give it a real buttery smooth finish. The last step is you need to seal Sweet Pickins, and I am using Big Top from DIY, and I love how DIY paint is all natural, very similar to Sweet Pickins milk paint, so it is a perfect fit. And I give it one even coat over the entire all three of the projects. I let them dry, and then really this project is complete. For project 5, we are using the paper called Willow Blues, and then if you have been watching me for a while, I found a stack of these at the Goodwill Bins, and I've been slowly but surely using them for different projects. We're going to use Liquid Sunshine from DIY because it is a perfect match to Connie's paper, and I am going to start on the back side. I'm going to paint the entire back side with 2 even coats, letting them dry in between. My vision for this tray is I want the paper to appear as if I actually hand painted it, not Connie. So what I'm starting with is I'm using a paintbrush and I'm going to dip it in water and draw a straight line down. I know I show this to you guys often, but this actually, by tearing it like this, it helps you blend that much easier. It almost makes your blending seamless. So after I do that, I'm going to apply the paper, the decoupage paper, or actually this is rice paper, and I mist my rice paper to activate the fibers, and then I'm going to use liquid patina and I'm going to apply it. And I always start with that starter strip, and I position my paper exactly where I want it. I pull that paper back and put that starter strip down and then smooth it out. It holds it in place, it helps alleviate wrinkles, it does so much for you guys. So after I get the paper all laid down, now we're going to start blending. I'm going to apply my first coat of Liquid Sunshine, let that dry, come back, apply a second coat of the Liquid Sunshine, and after that all dries, then we're going to start blending. So I actually used a plastic Ziploc and I just applied a little bit of White Swan, a little bit of Liquid Sunshine on there. I mixed it with water. And the easiest way I have found to blend is to almost like pounce your paintbrush. So I start by blending the 2 colors, I start pouncing, and I start on one edge. I even use my finger and I try to blend it a little bit more. And as you can see, by doing this, it starts blending seamlessly. I actually just am loving how this is looking. And I just start like on one corner and I just work my way all the way around, and eventually this does look like it is all blended in perfectly. After it all dries, I do want to bring back a little bit of that silver. I love things that are distressed and aged and chippy. I know some of you don't, and that's okay. So if you're one of those that don't want it to be aged and chippy, leave it as is right now. I want it that way, so I took a damp rag, and I love how DIY paint, you can wet distress it. So I just rub here and there and just let it naturally distress wherever it wants to. And I do that around all the edges. I actually flip it over and I do it on the back side as well. I want my piece to feel completely finished. After that, I take Big Top, I seal my entire piece with Big Top, and I apply one even coat to the front and the back. The last step is I'm taking clear wax and black wax from DIY, and I am applying just a even layer of the clear and then going in with the black wax, and I like to use them together. It gives me better control over the colored waxes, but the reason I decided to wax it is I wanted to blend it a little bit further. I don't want to be able to see the seam at all, and by adding a bit of that distressing with that dark wax, it just helps blend it a little bit further. Plus it gives it that real aged old feel to it. For project 6, I grabbed this print at the Goodwill Bins and I thought that it might be worth something. And I realized very quickly that it wasn't. I opened up the back, and when I saw that somebody had drawn this as well, I was like, okay, I'm not going to cover the actual print itself. I'm going to leave it as is. So it is actually back in the back side of this at the very end, so I never covered that up, and I very carefully removed it from the actual mat. So just so you guys know that. I don't want anybody coming after me, but I actually thought that it could have been something more valuable, let's say. So let's go ahead and start this upcycle. The first thing we're going to do is repurpose the mat. We're using Midnight Blue from Fusion Mineral Paint, and I'm applying just one even coat of the paint over the entire mat. It is a self-leveling paint, so you won't get any of those brush strokes. While that is drying, I am using the paper called Crockery, and I decided to grab one of the crocks. Initially, I wanted to add some flowers to it, but I decided having it just offset made it look so cool. I am going to tape it to the back side of the mat, and really, you guys, that is how simple this upcycle was.
All right, well, in the comments, you guys, let me know what you think of the June box. I can't wait to hear. And if you have any questions about any of the different subscriptions, let me know. Put it down in the comments or reach out. I always respond via email. But you guys, I am so excited for this next year of the Maker's Box. And I'm so excited to be inspiring each and every one of you. Well, you guys have yourselves a great day, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.